All right. Peace, everybody. It is that time. I am your host, Ber-Henda Williams, media mystic, bilingual poet, and empathic biz strategist for female identified leaders who want to use those gifts in service to humanity, and the founder of Culture Shift Hers Unite. I am super excited because of our new initiative, the Ber-Henda Williams Show. We're now 3 episodes in, and I am super excited to be talking with someone who knows all about the various seasons of the feminine. So Dorothy D. Smith is going to be one of our panelists that'll be joining Zahara and Asha on this Thursday to explore and how we navigate friendship breakups. And I believe this is a conversation that we don't have enough of.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But we're bringing this forward. And Dorothy, we'll just go right into it. So you're the founder of this amazing organization that is centered around women and their wellness. But the other piece of women in their wellness, one of the biggest tools that I have seen and personally experienced are my girlfriends.
Yeah.
They're an integral part of
Yeah.
my overall well-being. But what happens in that season when we drift apart or we're no longer aligned, or as you stated in the green room, how do we navigate a betrayal? And how have you, as someone who is a founder of an organization that is femme facing and supportive, helped others maybe navigate around this issue, or maybe yourself? How
Yeah.
have you
Yeah.
navigated the friendship breakup?
Yeah. And when we were talking in the back, Brenda, I was saying that when we originally were talking and you were like, oh yeah, I want you to come talk and show. And then I saw the topic. I was like, okay, we don't go there. And I think that one of the major things for me, as I was mentioning to you, is in this season of my life, is really doing a lot of reflection and understanding the complexity of just relationships as a whole. And how do we make space for people to be honest about who they are, and in any type of friendship breakup or shift in season, as I like to call it, because I'm a person that tends to be optimistic. So I never fully just close the door. I look at it like, okay, this just might not be the season for us to be connected. For whatever reason, it might be me, it might be you, but this is just not the season. And so I think that a lot of times when I've talked to different people about either my experience or their own experience, a lot of times you're in this space of trying to really reflect on who you are as a person and how you show up in relationships as a whole. And I spent a lot of time in recent years really doing a lot of self-reflection and kind of finding out who am I and how do I communicate that to others. I think that communication a lot of times is either the best thing in friendships, or if it's not there, it is the thing that can build resentment and miscommunication and envy and all these unnecessary emotions that can erode relationships. Oop, I can't hear you.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't interrupting your background sound.
No, I love the ooh, ooh, like give it to me.
As I was saying, as I was unmuted, I love what you said about, you know, one, lifting up the people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
That's super important to lift up, because I've witnessed that in many ways, women, and in particular, Black women, for a number of reasons, and I think even historically, you don't want to shake things up, because it's
Yes.
also safety, right? And then our friendships, when we say things to each other like sister, and I believe that it's been a bit co-opted, sis,
Mm-hmm.
um, that has a deep and emotional current to it, right? We say those
Yeah.
things, sis, sister, because of the uh, dismantling of our family unit.
Yeah.
So it was not uncommon for us to be sold
Mm-hmm.
to a new plantation while young, and then have an adoptive family. So
Yeah.
that family becomes your sis, or regionally, as things, progress, we move. And then, you have a homeboy or a homegirl, and that becomes your sis or your bruh or brother. So I think that when we end a relationship, it's not light. You don't walk away from it like, oh, okay, you just easily discard.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it really depends too on again, reflection and really understanding. There have been relationships to where, with connections, where it's like, oh yeah, me and this person are really cool, and but if they aren't missed, or if there's a disconnect for whatever reason, the weight of that feeling is not the same as somebody that, like you said, you look at as a sis, and
Mm.
that you tell your secrets to. They know the good, the bad, the ugly, and then there's a disconnect there. That's a different weight. And I think that for me, having the latter experience was way much more of an eye opener. How I grew up, and I think that some of it is the reflection of exactly what you're saying. I grew up in a way that I went to a lot of different schools. I had to navigate a lot of different relationships early on in life. And so for me, friendships are could be very fluid. And even to this day, I understand, like I said, seasons. But when I got older and I got closer to people, and having to experience um, having to experience heavy disconnect, when you're looking at people like, oh, this is family at this point. It was it shook me. It definitely shook me. Um, Having space, and I realized too that I couldn't necessarily talk to people who were connected to the people I was connected to, because
Mm.
I didn't want to taint or bring my stuff or their stuff into those relationships and make them feel like they had to choose or something like that. And so for me, what helped was going to therapy,
Come on.
having a person who could be completely objective, and who could tell me like, yeah, that was messed up what they, how they navigated this, and how didn't speak up for yourself, or how were people pleasing, or how you
Mm.
let things that bothered you brush under the rug, and or how you might have been conflict avoidant. All those different type of things that I had to face in myself were a part of the breakup. And I think that sometimes we can have a narrative for ourselves like, oh, I'm the victim in this situation. And in some respects, there's some times to where it's like, okay, yeah, this was kind of a little bit dumb raggedy, but I'm not necessarily a victim in this situation, because I own it. In any relationship, you own your part in it, and that's not fair for that person to have to carry the full weight of how that relationship evolved or discontinued.
I think that personal piece, like you said, you've been very self-reflective
Mm.
and going to therapy. I think that's also a when I say I can't wait till Fridays come, that's when I talk to my therapist. I like that's my favorite day of the week. You're naming something really powerful too. What in what ways do we participate in our relationships, and maybe sometimes the unfavorable parts of the relationship? How do we participate in
Yeah.
it? And you were naming some very poignant behaviors, not speaking up for yourself, not advocating for yourself. We're looking at our childhood upbringing too, and how that can also, you moved around a lot, how that also plays into it. I was a highly sensitive child into a, as a now highly sensitive adult. So feelings easily hurt, taking things personal.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The narratives the stories that we tell ourselves. Some of it, there's my grandfather, and you probably hear me say this on Thursday, but my granddaddy, who passed, he used to say that there's two sides to every story.
Mm.
And he would say, it's your side because you're sitting on this side, or you're sitting on that side. And then there's my side because I'm sitting on this side. And the truth is somewhere in the middle, because you can only see things from your perspective. And I think that a lot of times we are coming at things, and rightfully so, we're human. So I never try to downplay our humanity.
Mm.
How you feel in that moment is how you feel, regardless of if the narrative is true or not. It's just how you feel. And so your feelings are valid for that moment.
Yep.
However, that doesn't mean that your feelings are always the complete truth.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it takes, for me, it took some years to work through the realities of both things. Both things can be true. This person can,
Things can be true with
I
this.
can love this person. This person could have been a great friend and a great part of my journey, and they could have hurt me. And those both things can be true. And it's okay to live in both truths, but you also have to, in order to live in that truth, you have to own your part in it.
Mm. Mm. And that takes some courage,
Mm.
right? That steps us right into self-awareness
Yeah.
and healing. And in many cases, not every case, but I've also noticed too, there have been times in my life when my friendships were forged under trauma bonding,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mutual hurt and discomfort, similar life experiences. I have a running gag: if it's not one thing, it's your mother.
Mm.
So, my mom recently passed, but sometimes, woo, burn the
Especially when your relationships with women, like, ooh wee,
Mm-hmm.
ooh wee.
We. That's right, ma'am. Ooh, ooh, and we.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been times or instances where that was the um, foundation, a mutual pain, sometimes or othering, by a larger group, and
Yeah.
the friendships, form. And even though we're talking about friendships and not necessarily romantic relationships, but I do remember listening to a really, really, really great sermon or talk from Pastor Tory Roberts, and he said something really key that when one person heals in a relationship, if it's not rooted um, in something other than pain, then the relationship becomes obsolete.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that um what it requires is the
Mm,
space and the time sometimes for both people to heal. That's why I'm really funny about saying that. And I mean, I'll be 100. I have this
love
saying
it.
grace. I have this saying grace over grudges.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
I'm a Capricorn.
Come
We
on, Cap.
be known to hold grudges, to hold it. We're gonna hold it. We're gonna know. We're gonna have that Rico case. We're gonna have the fact, please don't think that you walking out of here without us having the proof of what our argument is. At the same time, I think
Mhm.
that what you mentioned about the healing piece, I think that there's work, and I think that sometimes you have to leave space and grace for in any relationship,
Yep.
friendships included, for people to have the space to do the work. If the relationship is valid, or valuable.
Mm,
And for me, I even realized years later, after a friendship breakup, that was like, dang, I I never spoke up fully and said, okay, I see what you're doing. You might not realize this is rubbing me the wrong way or hurting me, how you're moving with this, but it is. And then let that person either, even giving that person that space and grace to be able to say, like, oh, I didn't really realize that was impacting you like that. I was just moving on me, and that thing
mm,
that you mentioned earlier about, the taking things personal, all that stuff stems from a lot of our people like to say our childhood and how we grew up and how we learned how to navigate relationships.
yep.
And so that's why I never look at stuff as the door is just like fully closed, because I'm a person of faith, and I believe that if it's in God's purpose for that person to come
Listen,
back around to be in my life, who am I to say to God that no, that person might be a blessing in a different season for me, or in another iteration of a different season for
mhm.
both of us. We might have done the healing work that you said to do, that is needed to do to be able to forge healthy relationships. And so but I also do think that it is okay to um to separate
Mhm.
if the relationship is just not healthy for you in that moment.
That's right.
And yeah, and so I'm not saying that you got to just, keep on putting up with something that's not good for you. I'm saying that at the same time, I leave space for grace.
Absolutely. And especially as we get older, I noticed too that I am a childless person.
Mhm.
So my friends who have children, my friends who are divorcing with children, my friends who are in that sandwich generation who are raising children and taking care of aging parents. Life doesn't move as fluid maybe as it used to. And I
Yeah,
don't know about you, but I don't have a friend that I talk to every day.
yeah, yeah, no.
I don't.
Yeah, no, no. And I think that that was a thing too. It's so funny that you mentioned this. I had a friend, um, and I realized that, oh, it's not that, you know, we disconnected. And it was, I think that, again, seasons and where you are in life as a whole, like at the point in time to where me and this one friend disconnected, I I got married and I had a baby.
Woo! Okay, well, that right
And
there.
and navigating all that and trying to adjust to all that and even my just as a your body and all the things you go through in that. And I had a friend and friends who were still single and still, and some friends were able to make space for that and like, okay, you know what, she might not be the one to go on a girls trip, but she'll be the one. If you call her and you say you need that $20, she got you, or you need you to show up and do this or give advice, she'll have your back. But I wasn't necessarily the type of friend. And even to this day, I think that I'm okay with that though. I'm okay. I don't have FOMO when it's like, my friends are like, oh, they can, if y'all want to go, on a trip or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, she in cheer right now. Ain't no trips happening until March. And that's just kind of what it is. And being able to stand again, it removing myself from that people pleasing,
Mhm.
um, and having people, aligning myself with people who can understand that and give me. I was having a conversation at my office today with some of the gentlemen at my office, and they were talking about relationships.
Mm.
And we were talking, and I said one of the big things is, in order for a person to be able to feel okay with addressing conflict or telling you the truth about where they are, they have to feel safe in the relationship.
Come on.
And so you might think that you are creating safety, but you might not be. And I think that sometimes in relationships, when it comes down to like navigating different seasons or whatever, sometimes the ability for me to, in the past to be able to say like, oh no, I can't do anything until March, she's in cheer, was
Mhm.
hard for me to say, oh, I can't do this. I got this baby. And a part of you sometimes, even when you're in that space, you don't want to, or even having, when my grandfather was sick, and there were just certain things that I was not about to do. And it's like, hey, y'all can like come through here. We can meet at the park for a couple of hours. But right now my priority is this. And people who love you um, and understand your heart, they make room for that too.
That's right. That's right. That's so, so true. And I think that again, you are pointing something that's really profound and important is coming back to that relationship with self
Yeah.
and that evolutionary pathway that it sounds like you're definitely on with doing introspection. As you said, you've gotten really introspective and spending some time with self. And yes, things like the girls trip, we may not be able to go for one reason, or another. And I think that there's also to the where you are in your life cycle,
Yeah.
right? And particularly for those of us who are again on that evolutionary pathway that really do take their faith and spirituality serious, there will be times where you have to be alone,
Yeah.
right? Or to yourself. And I love your grandfather's advice. It was something similar to what I was growing up. There's your side, their side, and then the truth is somewhere in the middle, it's hard to be objective when you're in it. So this is you are definitely going deep, and this is where we want to be. We want to be in the deep, not very surface level, because this is so huge.
Yeah.
It's such a huge piece. So I want to ask you, what are you looking forward to most about this event, and then what do you want people to take away from this event?
Mm. I'm looking forward to the vulnerability of the conversation. I think that it's something that we don't always talk about authentically. And I think that my fellow panelists are amazing women who are going to bring some really great perspectives. And so I'm actually looking forward to, in some respects, being poured into.
Mm.
Um, and then I hope that people will take away something that allows them, if they are or if they have navigated a friendship breakup, something that allows them to have another tool in their tool belt as they are healing from that, and the ability to kind of see yourself, some time to do some reflection. And so those are some things I'm hoping people take away.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that those are huge takeaways. And I love that you said that, even though you're in the place of pouring and sharing your knowledge and experiences and expertise, I love that you are looking forward to being poured into, because that is our goal, is that no matter who you are, where you show up, whether on the panel or not, that there's a level set when it comes to power dynamics, that there
Mhm.
are no power dynamics when you come to any of my events. Everyone is on equal footing. Love and grace is extended to everyone who comes through the door. But I do believe, because of what you do in the world with the Well Initiative, which I would love for you to share with people more about, and how they can get involved, and what are some of your immediate needs that you are looking to forward to, and have that anticipation that you'll be poured into.
Yeah, yeah. Let me think about the question because I'm like absorbing. I'm in, you know how I get with you. I'm like, what is she gonna say? What can I? So the Well Initiative, we are in a season. We're launching out a couple of things. I think the last time I spoke to you, I mentioned, but we're going to be doing our fiscal sponsorship program, which allows for women who are doing heart-led work. So whether or not that is, whether or not that's a social enterprise, whether or not that's a nonprofit, whether or not you're just a woman out here who wants to do good and doesn't have the structural means to do that, we want to be able to be a resource for those type of women. And so we're going to be launching that out this second part or this last part of the year. So I'm really excited about that. Outside of the Well, I'm personally going to be hosting an intimate conversation with some women about heart, head, and money. And I'm really excited to have that conversation. Having been in the social sector for, oh my goodness, over 20 years at this point, because I grew up in it. I think that sometimes that's the conversation that we are uncomfortable with, and being able, again, vulnerability, and being able to pull from each other and grow from each other in this season is important. This economy, this government, there's a lot of things that people are navigating. And what I find is that we have what we need in our community. It's just about us being able to have the spaces to be able to listen and talk authentically with each other about the things that matter to us as women who are trying to do great work in the community. And so I'm going to be doing that in November. And yeah, those are just a couple of high hanging things that I'm working on right now.
Love that. And so, of course, we want to make sure that people get all the details and information about anything that you're doing, especially the initiative around heart, head, and money. So many of us, and I'll say I, have also been in the social sector, whether nonprofit or as a former educator. And one of those things that I really had to work on was my money concept as it pertains to identity, and this idea that doing good work requires martyrdom.
Mm,
And that is just unfortunately pervasive in the educational and nonprofit spaces, that you are to suffer, that poverty is a virtue, and that burning yourself thin and self-sacrifice is an expectation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we know that when a person passes, I mean, you and I know a lot of people that have done great work, who have succumbed to the weight maybe of that work. Um, and the season has changed. We were there, gave flowers, eulogized, gave great words, and then the season changed. And guess what? The problem's still there.
Yep. Yep.
So, how does power operate in a soft way? And that's one of the things that I'm writing. I am dedicating myself to writing every Sunday is the soft power on my Substack is how do we move from a scarcity hustle to a flow to a softness, and not just in that commercial way. Like,
Yeah.
oh, my life is I'm living a soft life.
Soft life.
Not in that way, but how can we create a more fluid, humane way of treating ourselves, especially those of us that are in the work day to day of giving to people, and we can't leave ourselves out of that. And I know you and I offline talk about that all the time. We talk
Yeah.
about this all the time, but how do we actually practice wellness? Like I saw our mutual friend Shalise doing cartwheels. So I was like, girl, you better do a cartwheel. And then yeah, you better cartwheel. And so it made me think about like, well, how many times do I pause during the day?
Yep. Yep.
Where does nap time fit in the day?
Yeah. Yeah. Shalise, actually, she posted something. Shout out Shalise.
Daniels, Live As If, and she's my
Yes.
sponsor. So shout out. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Amazing woman. And she posted something about making 3 goals for the day. And after that, like whatever comes, but it really shifted how I look at things and my time, because it's always like you feel like you're in this space of urgency versus like, like you said, the ability to flow and enjoy life. And sometimes it's because we put the weight on ourselves. And that's even in relationships. We put the weight on ourselves to try to be everything, and that's never okay. And then we get mad when people are expecting us to show up like that. And it's like, well, you set that precedence, not anybody else. And so how do we own it? And so some of the work I've been doing is tapping into some Shalice's advice.
Love it. It is absolutely invaluable. Absolutely invaluable. So with that, my sister, I want to thank you for your vulnerability today, your heart, and saying yes to this amazing configuration. It really does move me to my core to see how this is evolving and growing, and you're definitely an integral part of this. And last but certainly not least, folks, we are at the halfway point. In terms of our ticket sales, we are at the halfway point. We would love to see you. I have information here. Yep, come on. We're going to repost, reshare. So wherever you are catching this, whether it's in real time or in the replay, we are joined here by Dorothy D. Smith, the founder of the Well Woman Initiative. And she is one of our amazing panelists for our discussion that is happening this Thursday at Bamboo Royal Oak. Shout out to Amanda Luan, who is the co-founder of Bamboo and the home of the Ber-Henda Williams Show. I'm a proud member, and I could not do this work without the support of the Bamboo team. So huge shout out to them. Dorothy, I will see you this Thursday. Yes, can't wait to see you. And I hope to see more of you, whether you're wherever you are catching this. But this is such a valuable and deep discussion, and I believe it's going to be very nourishing. So with that in mind, please get a ticket or two. We have a very small number of sister links. And what do I mean by sister link? When you purchase a ticket, when you purchase one, you will get a ticket to give to a sister friend. So shout out to your group chat, to your friends, loved ones, those that you care about. Please join us on this Thursday. Again, Dee, thank you so much for joining me today. And I can't wait to see you, friend.
See ya.
All right. All right, everybody. Bye for now.